Don Vito, the rise and fall of Vito Genovese. In the shadows of New York's underworld, one name cast a long and fearsome silhouette: Vito Genovese. He was an American mafia don whose ruthless ambition would make him one of the most powerful mob bosses of his era, and ultimately help bring about the mafia's public downfall. Genovese craved absolute power, longing to be capo di tutti capi, the boss of all bosses. A dangerous dream that led him to shake the underworld's very foundations. His quest for supremacy would expose the secret society of La Cosa Nostra like never before, from a botched summit in a quiet upstate town to the betrayal of one of his own. This is the gripping true crime story of Don Vito Genovese, his origins, his bloody rise, and his infamous downfall. Vito Genovese's journey into infamy began humbly. Born near Naples, Italy in 1897, he immigrated to New York at age 15, settling with his family in the teeming tenements of Little Italy. The streets of Lower Manhattan were a tough proving ground for an impoverished immigrant boy. Genovese had little formal education, and quickly learned survival meant aligning with power and fear. By age 19, he was already arrested and jailed for a year on a firearms charge, a baptism into the violent life that lay ahead. But prison did not deter him. Instead, the young tough fell in with other rising gangsters of the neighborhood, forming fast friendships that would change organized crime forever. In these early years, Genovese became close to a charismatic Sicilian upstart, Charles Lucky Luciano. The two were kindred spirits, ambitious, street-smart, and utterly ruthless. Under Luciano's wing, Genovese honed his craft in crime, serving as a loyal enforcer and hitman. The pair navigated Prohibition-era New York, where illegal liquor flowed in speakeasies and gang wars decided who would control the riches. They literally killed their way to the top. By the late 1920s, New York's underworld was ruled by Joe the Boss Masseria, and Genovese and Luciano were two of his trusted young lieutenants. But the criminal empire was unstable. In 1930, the city erupted into the Castellammarese War, a bloody power struggle between Masseria and his rival Salvatore Maranzano. Vito Genovese proved his loyalty and vicious effectiveness during this war. In February 1930, he allegedly ambushed and murdered Gaetano Tommy Reyna, a Bronx gang leader thought to be betraying Masseria. Genovese stalked Reyna as he left his mistress's home and shot him in the back of the head with a shotgun. It was an early sign of Genovese's cold-blooded efficiency. The following year, Genovese played a role in the betrayal of his own boss. Luciano secretly struck a deal with Maranzano to end the war by killing Masseria. In April 1931, Genovese joined Luciano at a Coney Island restaurant, where they assassinated Joe Masseria. With Masseria eliminated, Luciano and Genovese turned on the unsuspecting Maranzano months later. Maranzano was slain in his Manhattan office in September 1931, clearing the field for Luciano's new order. In the aftermath, Lucky Luciano reimagined the mafia. He organized the 5 families of New York and set up the Commission, a national syndicate governing council. For his invaluable support, Luciano rewarded Genovese by naming him underboss, second in command of their crime family. By his early 30s, Vito Genovese had reached the upper echelons of the underworld. He was respected and feared as Luciano's right hand. But his rise was also marked by acts so treacherous they stunned even hardened gangsters. In 1931, Genovese's first wife, Donata, died of tuberculosis. Grief did not restrain him for long. 2 weeks later, he murdered a fellow gangster and married that man's widow, a woman Genovese had openly coveted. The brazenness of this act, killing a friend to steal his wife, cemented Genovese's reputation for personal viciousness. It was a glimpse of his twisted personal code, Nothing was forbidden if it satisfied Genovese's desires, whether lust or power. Genovese's loyalty to Luciano endured through the early 1930s, but even as he helped lead their crime family, he was pursuing his own schemes on the side. In 1934, Genovese concocted a get-rich swindle with a small-time associate named Ferdinand the Shadow Boccia. The two planned to cheat a wealthy gambler out of $150,000 in a rigged card game. The scheme succeeded, but then greed took hold. Boccia demanded $35,000 as his share for arranging the victim, a sum Genovese had no intention of paying. Rather than split the loot, Genovese decided to eliminate his partner in crime. On September 19, 1934, Boccia was lured to a coffee shop in Brooklyn. There, Genovese and a crew of hitmen, including Ernest the Hawk Rupolo, gunned Boccia down in cold blood. The problem of Boccia's demands was solved with a few bullets, and one more body was added to Genovese's tally. For a time, the Boccia murder went unsolved. Genovese continued to operate with impunity, and by 1936, he even stepped up as acting boss of the Luciano family when Lucky Luciano was imprisoned on a prostitution charge. But trouble was brewing. Law enforcement eventually caught wind of Genovese's role in Boccia's killing. In 1937, facing an indictment for murder, Genovese abruptly fled New York for Italy to avoid prosecution. Leaving his thriving empire behind was a drastic step, but Vito had no intention of spending his life in an American prison. Instead, he sought refuge in the land of his birth and soon found new opportunities for power across the Atlantic. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe and follow the channel. Stay tuned for part 2 as we trace the criminal rise of Vito Genovese. Please like, share, and let us know what you think in the comments. This has been The Outlaw Factory.